What are the 5 things that you should never, ever, ever do in a self-defense shooting? Thank you for watching. Before we get started, please like, share, subscribe, comment down below. It really helps the algorithm. As a Second Amendment channel, the algorithm's always effing around with us, so please do so. So let's get into it. Now, what are the 5 things that you should never do in a self-defense shooting? Now, remember, I am a gun lawyer, so these aren't 5 tactical things. It has nothing to do with what type of gun you're going to use, what type of ammunition you should use, anything like that, okay? This is purely from a legal standpoint as a criminal defense attorney and a Second Amendment lawyer of the 5 things that you should never do in a self-defense shooting if you want to win your trial and not spend the rest of your life in prison. So, number 5, don't pull your gun just to show it, okay? Scenario, driving down the road rage incidents happen, people screaming and yelling at each other. I get cases all the time where you get a situation like that and somebody pulls their gun and shows it to the person to try and scare them away as if they're, some sort of magical force field that's going to make them go away. Or they pull their gun out to get it in the ready position. I hear this story all the time. Well, I wanted to cut down some time in case something happened of me getting my gun out. So I went into my glove compartment, pulled it out, and put it on my lap. Not to intimidate or scare anybody, but I just wanted to get it ready in case something happened. Well, what always happens in that case is the other person then calls the cops and says, that guy pulled a gun on me. And then they come to you and they search your car and they find a gun. And then the gun matches the description that the person said. And all of a sudden now you can claim all you want that you pulled it just to get in the ready position, but you got the other person saying, no, he pulled it and pointed it or waved it at me. So it's your word against theirs and they're describing your gun and you actually have your gun. So do not pull your gun out until you're going to use it. Okay. I have taken self-defense classes and gun training classes. I'm not an expert in it, but they always tell you don't pull your gun unless you intend to use it. So number 5 is do not show your gun just to either show your gun or get it ready to use. You pull it when it's time to use it. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an ag assault charge. Number 4, don't fire warning shots. Okay, you hear this all the time too. I pulled the gun out. I shot into the ground. I shot up into the air. Don't fire warning shots, okay? The law has changed, thankfully, in Florida, where it used to be if you fired warning shots like it was automatically illegal, you got an ag assault charge. They did change that. So even though it may technically be legal to do so, what's legal in the statute and what a jury thinks about your case are 2 completely different things. So do not just fire warning shots. Again, back to what I just talked about, we're trained. Don't pull your gun unless you intend to use it. So if you're pulling the trigger on your gun, there's only one reason to pull your trigger on your gun, and that's to shoot the other person. Don't be Joe Biden, who comes out and says, oh, you just need to point your shotgun in the air and fire 2 blasts in the air, Jill, and they're all going to run away. Yeah, don't fire warning shots. Don't fire 2 shotgun blasts in the air. If you're pulling the trigger, you're only wanting to shoot the person. So number 4, don't fire warning shots. Number 3, if you do shoot at the person, make sure you're shooting to stop the threat, not to kill the person. So shoot them until you feel they're no longer a threat. If you shoot them and they're laying on the ground and no longer a threat and you continue to shoot them, that's going to be a problem in your self-defense case, because now it's not going to look like you were shooting them out of fear. It's going to look like you were shooting them out of anger or whatever. So they teach you this in the shooting class as well, but it goes hand in hand with criminal defense. Don't shoot to kill the person. Shoot the person until the threat is stopped. Once the threat is stopped, stop shooting. Number 2, don't lie to the police about what happened. So I'm always going to give you the advice of don't make a statement to the police. If you're involved in a self-defense shooting, you should not make a statement to the police. You should call a lawyer first. Get the insurance, USCCA, US Law Shield, whatever. Get the insurance, call the number on the back of the card. They'll call your lawyer. You can just tell the cops, I don't want to talk to you until I've talked to a lawyer. Most cops will understand that. They'll give you time for the lawyer to show up. They'll set an appointment for you to come down. If you do insist on talking to the police, if you feel like you've not done anything wrong and you want to tell them your side of the story, or you're just so emotionally crazed that you didn't think about calling a lawyer, which is why you should call a lawyer, because your adrenaline is going to be up and everything else, and you're not going to be making very accurate statements. So take the time to decompress, tell them you want to make a statement later, and get your lawyer down there. But if you insist on making a statement, do not lie in that statement. Just tell them the truth about what happens, because here's what happens. You lie about it. No, they called. So go back to the first scenario I said. You pull your gun out and you wave it at the person because you want to scare them. And then they call the cops and say they waved a gun at me. If the cops come and interview you, you say, yeah, that person was threatening me. I was scared. So I did pull out my gun and show it to them because I wanted them to know not to fuck with me and to get away from me. But I didn't point it at them. I didn't say I was going to kill you. I just showed it at them. Worst case scenario, you might get like an improper exhibition of a firearm, or you may get nothing. But if you tell the cops, I don't know what they're talking about. I never pulled out a gun. I don't even have a gun. And then they search your car and they find a gun in your glove compartment. Guess what? Now you've lied. So you turned what was a he said, she said, where nobody knew what the truth was, into one person is not lying and the other person is lying. So guess which one's the cops going to believe at that point? Guess which one the prosecutor is going to believe? And guess what one the jury is going to believe? Okay. So don't lie to the police to try and minimize your actions or to try and leave out things that you think are going to be bad for you. If you feel like you need to leave stuff out of your statement because it might get you in trouble, then don't make a fucking statement. Okay. Don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut until your lawyer gets there. Let your lawyer make your statement for you, because we know what things to not put in the statement, and we're not the defendant. So we can tell the cops anything we want and there's nothing they can do to you because it's not your statement. They can't even use it in court. Okay. So don't make a statement. But if you do insist on talking to the police, do not lie to try and mitigate what your actions were in that incident, because it's only going to make it worse. And the number one reason, or the number one thing not to do in a self-defense situation is don't start the altercation. Do not be what they legally call the primary aggressor. So when two people get in a fight and the cops show up and they're trying to figure out who's going to jail, the one thing that they need to determine is who was the primary aggressor. So if you started the fight, if you're the primary aggressor, it is going to be very hard for you to try and claim self-defense if something goes wrong in that fight. Now, it's not impossible. Take back to the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case, where George Zimmerman started that fight, but there became a time during the fight where Trayvon Martin got the upper hand and Zimmerman had to pull out his gun to save his life at that particular point. He was found not guilty, but look at all the crap that he had to go through first. His life was ruined. He's millions of dollars in debts to his lawyers. He's all over the newspaper or whatever. There's a dead kid for no reason. So don't start the altercation. If you want to be the self-defense person, it needs to be clear to law enforcement, as much as it can be, that you didn't start the fight. Because if you started the fight, no one's going to believe your self-defense claim, and a jury's not going to really care, again, about the nuances in the law, because they're only going to know that you started the fight. So the number one thing is don't start the altercation. Okay, that's it for today. Those are your top 5 things. Follow those rules. That doesn't mean you're not going to be arrested or charged, but it's certainly going to make it way easier for your defense attorney to defend you when it comes time to your case. So thanks for watching. Again, as always, like, share, subscribe, comment. It really helps the algorithm. I'll see you next time. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, stay vigilant, and carry on.